Hello, a very warm welcome to YTV 30, where we'll be taking a rather offbeat look at 3 decades of Yorkshire television. On tonight's programme, Bruce Forsyth, no less, shares some showbiz secrets with Georgie Spanswick. We laugh along with Les and Yorkshire's Masters of Mirth. And we meet the survivors of Junior Showtime. Now, it's true that 1967 is regarded as a great year for British culture. Swinging London, the Summer of Love, which I missed, and all that. But 12 months later, it was our proud region's turn to have its moment in the sun. Finally, we had our own independent TV station, and boy, we knew how to celebrate.
First night, which is the first night of Yorkshire TV. This is the first transmission of any light entertainment show, and it's being done here from the refectory at Leeds University. Of course, it's one of those dinners where everybody's in formal dress, places full of civic dignitaries. I pity the poor devils who have to make this lot laugh.
Holy cow, viewers, here comes the new boy now, viewers. Yorkshire TV's underway. Yorkshire TV's here to stay. Yorkshire television has been
born. Bob Monkhouse there. I think it's fair to say one of the kings of cabaret. And now from one showbiz trooper to another. Because over the years, some of the country's greatest entertainers have graced our studios in Leeds. And right at the very top of that list comes a man who bestrides the last 3 decades like a catchphrase-creating colossus. Our intrepid reporter, Georgie Spanswick, was granted an audience with the legend that is Mr. Bruce Forsyth.
It is not often that a girl gets to sit on a sofa with Mr. Show Business.
Well,
Bruce,
I wouldn't say that.
Oh, come on, it's nice to meet you. It is so nice to see you.
Yeah, but I have been on the city with a few girls in my time.
Oh, I'm not the only one.
No. Oh, Georgie, cheer up, cheer. What a terrible way to start. All right, I'll make out you're my first.
Thank you.
Right.
Now, what were you doing in 1968? Because seeing as this is Yorkshire Television's birthday and we were launched in 1968, what were you up to?
Well, I was asking them the other day, and I still haven't heard. I think that was the year that I did a light entertainment series here, like a variety show with sketches, or maybe I had Sid James on it, Ronnie Corbett, a lot of marvellous people we had on the show, and it was lovely to come up here and do that kind of a show. It was 1960. Well, thank you for telling me, because I was asking somebody the other day, when did I do that here? So you see, it was many years before they take a chance with me again.
You see,
but I don't hold it against them. I don't hold it against them.
What are the audiences like in the north compared to, say, the southern audiences?
They are a rowdy crowd, and they're so excited before you even start. I mean, they've worn themselves out, some of them, before you go on.
Yeah.
And I have to say to them, hold on, you've got a long way to go. You've got 3 hours in here, you see.
What about other show business work that you've done up here in Yorkshire?
In the old days, and when variety was going, Leeds was one of my favourite theatres to work, both the city varieties and the old Empire. I always loved the Leeds audience. I thought they were a great audience.
Oh, it's nice to hear.
Oh no, I've always had and the town has always had a good feel about it for me.
So what's the golf been like up here?
I really literally go home from here. I very rarely come in this bar, for instance. I've been in there once in 3 weeks.
This is terrible, Bruce.
It is, especially with the record I've got. So I haven't been doing that. I finish my work, I go back to the hotel, I have a sort of a light something to eat, and then I rest my voice for 12 hours before I talk to anybody, because if my voice goes during this show, I'm absolutely sunk. So I'm like an old hermit up here, really. But I did play golf yesterday, and I did win a tenner.
It is our birthday. We're 30 years old. Do you have anything that you'd like to say to our lovely YTV viewers?
We love coming up here. And when we come to the studio, because they don't do many shows like the kind of show I do here, most of it is filming, you know, Dear David Jason and all those and Emma Dale, all those wonderful things you do here, but they're all filmed. But we sort of, all the people at the studio, they say, oh, it's lovely when you come up here for 3 weeks because the studio sort of comes back to life.
Yeah.
And with a show being taped here. So just keep watching YTV, and a very, very happy birthday to Yorkshire Television. I have many happy memories here, and I hope to have a few more.
It has been so nice to see you so nice.
Thank you, George.
The good people of YTV land are famous, among other things, for their sense of humour. It's therefore a good thing that we've had some of the finest jesters, gag merchants and clowns in our region over the years. In a moment, I'll be talking to one of the very, very best. But first, a few jokes.
Jane Fonda came over from America. She got all the class lined up to have one of those aerobics classes, and she chose Barnsley. And she put the tape on. And she said, right, hands on thighs, and they all went like that.
Les, the last time I saw you on television, you were sitting on the beach at Bridlington trying to pretend it was summer. I mean, are you still trying to pretend it's summer up there?
No, it's a smashing place, it really is. There's no pollution there, you know. The only thing is the crabs haven't got claws, they've got grease nipples. But it really is a first-class torrid zone. And I recommend everybody to go to Bridlington. No, it's great, really is.
Looking back, I mean, do you remember the first time you appeared on Calendar or in Yorkshire Television? It must have been very close at the beginning, wasn't it?
Yes, I got it. When I first went on Calendar, a new feeling came over me I'd never experienced before, sick.
I know what you mean, every night, yeah, go on.
Well, no, in those days it was shot from a very small studio, you know, in fact, it was a technological cupboard. But what I was so impressed with in those days was this air of robust amateurism, which has never left the programme, and I think that's so essential to television.
Barnsley people, as Charlie will tell you, they've got this wonderful ability not to allow anybody to get one oar on them. This Barnsley lad's playing 3-card brag with a Scotchman. He says, all right, son, I'll go £1. He says, £2. He says, £4. £8. £16. He says, £30. He says, that's no right. We're doubling up. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. He says, hey, that's right. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. He said, tell you what, we'll start again. He says, right, £1. He says, I'll see you there.
Good evening, ladies and... The concert tonight. Albert, back of the room, can you hear me? I keep often coming on again when eyes a bit loose. Am I coming through now? Kick the plug, kick the plug. Get down, get down. Put your fingers in the sockets and try it. You've gone all black down one side, you will do.
Hey, I'll tell you something, a little lad, this is Ray from Barnsley, went into house one morning, grabbed cat, slammed it on kitchen table, grabbed his mum's carving knife. She says, what the banner do? He said, I've just heard my dad tell me Uncle Harry, there's £30 at Kitty and I'm having it.
Now, if you've seen the act of my next guest recently, you might recognise one or two of those jokes, because he's still using them, Dougie Brown. Dougie, why, looking at those, Barnsley, why does that figure so heavily in Northern humour?
You go south, like even to Nottingham, and there's one story I like to use is about the first Russian astronaut was actually from Barnsley, and he was called Georg Gorkin. Now, Nottingham, they don't know what you're talking about, you know, or even...
We need subtitles for that, don't we? What is it about this part of the world? You know, I mean, Les Dawson used to say, if they like you in the working men's clubs and pubs in this part of the world, they'll let you live.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what is it about the humour here? Because it does, I mean, it is international, isn't it? Apart from Georg Gorkin.
Georg Gorkin, and the other one is the Barnsley, the land of the Chinese rent man. Friday night, knock on the door, Shin Tin. I like the story of the Barnsley guy goes home to his wife and said, I'm just going down to the pub with the lads, put your coat on. She said, am I coming with you? He said, no, I'm switching the heating off.
It's a late night audience. Non-politically correct.
Oh,
no, for you and me. Do you remember the early days of, I mean, do you remember YTV bursting onto the scene in this part of the world?
Yes, I can, yes. That nice logo used to beam the little, come out of the, yes, because I did 3, 2, 1 from here, didn't I, as well, which was one of the great programs with Ted Rogers, Excellent that was. And when you see the reruns of that now, they said, and our lucky couple have won £272. And the audience went, yeah!
As usual, you kept me entertained. And thank you very much indeed for coming.
Should I tell you the latest very quick one?
Go on then, the latest very quick
The
one.
guy goes in the fish and chip shop with a cod on his shoulder and said, do you sell fish cakes? The man said, no. He said, oh, what a shame, it's his birthday as well.
Remember, folks, you heard it first and probably for the last time on this programme. Dougie, once again, many thanks.
My pleasure. Thanks for asking me.
Now, change of mood. In these days of digital technology, your average pop video is a mind-bending whirl of colour, effects, and, well, to my mind, because I'm very old, it's utterly mad. It makes me yearn for the days when a group of fresh-faced teenagers could promote their music with a little more style, a bit more panache. With that in mind, each week we'll be featuring a vignette of archive performance filmed especially for our news programme calendar. And first up, it's the Bedrocks from 1968 with their version of Oh Bloody, Oh Bloody, filmed, of course, at Kirkgate Market in Leeds. Welcome back. Now, this little chevron has, I think it's fair to say, become a symbol of hope, a guarantee of quality for a legion of YTV viewers. And those 5 wonderful notes are a clarion call for all those who enjoy their telly. But as Georgie Spanswick found out, there's more, a lot more, to the YTV ident, as it's known in the trade, than meets the eye.
So what's this then? Da 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 da. Recognise it? Of course you do. It's... Now some people would say that... it's based on the song On Ilkley Moor Bar Tat. Well, as we're about to find out, that catchy jingle has a fascinating little history all of its own. This man sat sitting here before me is Christopher Gunning, responsible for Middlemarch theme music, Poirot and Karaoke Cold Lazarus.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right, Christopher?
You are. You're dead right.
And you're also responsible for the rewrite of YTV's Chevron, the station identity music, aren't you?
That's right.
How on earth did you come to be involved in that?
Well, if my memory serves me correctly, what happened was that round about the late 70s, the existing music, which I think everybody knows, was beginning to sound just a little bit on the thin side, partly due to changes in recording techniques and so forth. And the person who was then head of music at Yorkshire Television, a lovely man called Keith Morgan, came to me and said, "Is there anything you can do to make it sound better, Chris?"
Fit out.
You know, there was a new logo, I think, at the same time, in lovely colour and so on and so forth, and they wanted the music to sound big and glamorous too. Yeah. So what I did was to use a few more instruments than the original had, filled it out a little bit, but basically kept it exactly the same. However, I did write 12 other variants.
Oh, no!
Which were, you know, all sort of ended with...
Lovely.
But, you know, some had different beginnings and so forth.
So what was it like recording something like that?
Towards the end of the session, I do remember the recording engineer saying, Is there any chance of somebody playing a different tune soon? Rather pathetically.
So is there any truth in the rumour that it was based on Ilkley Moor Bar Tat?
Well, you know, I don't know what was going through the mind of the original composer. That was Derek New, and unfortunately he's not with us anymore. But Ilkley Moor Bar Tat, it's not far to, you know.
It is.
It's the same rhythm.
That's incredible.
And actually in the bass, you have Ilkley Moor Bar Tat.
Could you give us an alternative on the ident, sort of a romantic theme, please? Oh, Christopher, I've fallen in love with the station ident. Thank you so much.
The multi-talented Georgie Spanswick. Now, as we know, calendar's been an institution at YTV since the very first day, and over the years it's tackled subjects which other news programmes would have left well alone. Each week we'll delve into the archives to breathe life into stories which, quite frankly, should have been left to rest in peace. This week, Austin Mitchell, a jacuzzi, and a young lady in a bikini. But remember, this was 1975.
Now, you reckon that this can get a human body cleaner
I don't
than a
actually...
conventional bath?
I could say so, but I am not saying so. I say it will get you as clean as anything, but you don't have to do the donkey work.
Okay, well, calendar asks, can you face the challenge?
Yes, definitely.
You're confident this can clean anything?
Yes, it will.
Okay, well, I brought along with me my domestic wash. Angie, can you come on? There we are. It's usually the soap powder that's a biological miracle, but this time it's Angie. And I'm just going to put on some ordinary household dirt, such as I find... Oh, this is a real pleasure. People say I'm a dirty old man, but you don't believe them, do you? No, no. Actually, I think with a figure like yours, you should really have a twin toe. Turn round. Sorry about your carpet, Leslie.
That's all right.
But I'm enjoying myself, so don't... Yes. How do you feel, Angie?
Dirty.
Yes. In you get.
Right, get in.
Is that right temperature? Okay, sit down.
Splish splash, I was taking a bath, long about a Saturday night. Yeah, rubbed up, just relaxing in the tub, thinking everything was alright. Well, I stepped out the tub, put my feet on the floor, I wrapped the towel around me and I opened the door, and in a splish splash, I jumped back in the bath. Well, how was I to know there was a party going on?
Oh, that's a very nice bath, isn't it? I must say, I've never enjoyed a bath so much, but you reckon it will get that girl cleaner than any other bathroom?
Yes, it will.
You're confident?
Yes, I'm confident.
You can face the challenge?
I can face the challenge.
Okay, well, let's put it to the test. Angie, get out. Oh, wow, you look very clean. Turn round. That's just to see you clean, of course, not for any other reason. Turn round again. Oh, what a lovely, clean girl. Oh. The other thing about this bath, which I'm a real convert, is the bubble display it gives. Just look at this. Angie?
Yes.
Angie?
Yoo-hoo.
Where are you?
In here.
Where are you?
Come and find me.
I wasn't going to have a bath for another 2 months yet, but an opportunity like that. Don't watch. I mean, go away and watch something else. Switch over to the other channel or something. This is very embarrassing. Angie, still there?
Waiting.
Oh. Have we just a minute? Oh, boy. Oh, 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 oh.
moving swiftly on. For a generation, my next two guests were standard bearers for YTV's kids television. They sang, they danced, and they coped with studios full of screaming youngsters. Both survived, and they're here to tell the tale. But before we meet them, let's have a look at clips of TV favourites, Junior Showtime, and Calendar Kids.
Wouldn't it be nice to make a people free? The likes of you, the likes of me. We can do it very easily, barely even have to try. Let a little time go by, and pretty soon before we know it, suddenly the two of us are one. I'm a calendar kid. I'm a calendar kid. I'm a calendar kid.
This is Lenny Henry.
Hello.
Hello. There seems to be a lot of American programmes coming over from the States. Do you like any? What do you like?
Yeah, I like the detective movies,
Yeah.
especially the one about the two detectives that work at British Leyland,
Oh, yeah.
Khakis and Clutch.
What about McLeod?
Do you like McLeod?
No.
What do you mean, no? I thought it was a Scottish weather forecast.
Once again, hundreds of you have sent in the jokes that you think will make us laugh. For instance, from Julie Metcalf, who lives in gorgeous, beautiful, elegant Allerton Bywater. Doctor, doctor, I feel like a camera. Take these pills and see what develops.
Fresh, vibrant, multi-talented, and fun enough, so are my guests, Catherine Afanovich, Mark Curry.
Where? When?
But what was it all about? Just explain to people
What,
who...
Junior Showtime?
Yeah.
It was a kids' variety show, basically. And, I mean, it changed a bit over the 5 or 6 years that we did it. But basically, you'd start off, you'd have sort of 4 or 5 presenters, kid presenters, and an adult entertainer, Bobby Bennett, a brilliant entertainer, singer, dancer, comedian, impressionist. And sketches would be written, so I'd be like the postman, she'd be Kathy the makeup girl, and it would be terrible jokes. We'd introduce local talent, so halfway through the show you'd get sort of 3 or 4 people.
Well, it wasn't local, it was network,
Yeah,
nationwide.
The program.
Yes, it was. So you'd get...
it was the big time,
Oh, it
wasn't
was. It was a
And
huge
the best
variety
thing of
show.
all was the end of the show when we'd say, and now it's finale time. And this week we're going way out west, and we'd put our sort of gear on, we'd go do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Oh, yeah, we'd sing
Which, tell you the interesting thing about the finale type was the way that they came up with it. There was always a theme. It would be way out west, or it would be colours. Or... Do you know how they were thought up, those? My mum and Jean Pierce over our kitchen table.
Because Jean Pierce was the choreographer.
She'd sit there and my mum would say, oh, why don't you do one about so-and-so, or, you know.
And all the songs would have that theme, so
A bit
there's
of a
colours
theme.
you'd see.
Great homegrown stuff.
Yeah.
But was it genuinely Junior Showtime and Calendar Kids that actually gave you either the impetus or the fame to pursue
Absolutely.
the very careers
Without
that you
Yorkshire
had?
Television,
Yeah.
without Yorkshire Television, without Junior Showtime and Calendar Kids, I would not have, particularly Junior Showtime, because I'm from a very working class background, and nobody in my family performers, none of them at all, remotely anywhere near. You know, I mean, they're all miners, and my dad was a prison officer, and my mum was a nurse, and there's no way I would have ever been in the business.
I actually never wanted to be in front of the camera after that. I wanted to be a PA. I thought PAs were so
Neither did
glamorous.
the audience.
Oh, there was
The
those
audience didn't want you
pens
to be
round the
there.
neck.
Because
you know.
there are PAs listening to us now, they're very important. They're
Oh, we love
wonderful
them.
people.
But I did want to be a PA, and then I thought about, you know, maybe becoming a makeup girl. But I knew I wanted to work in television.
This is not a proper job, is it?
No, and I'm on the radio.
Both of you. Great to see you again.
Nice to
Thank
see you as well. I
Very
like your
much.
glasses and, you know.
No, I've been
What about the
smartened
kipper
up by the
ties,
watch-
though? You
by
used
the
to have nice
wardrobe
big
department.
lapels and the kipper ties, you know.
A
that's what
style icon. A style,
we-
some say.
Very nice shades of brown.
Thank you. You're lovely. And that, I'm afraid, is it for now. Join us next week for the first topless weather forecast. A crazed ape and the beauty contest to end all beauty contests. From all of us, good night.
Yorkshire.
Celebrating 30 years of quality television, Alan Hardwick takes a look back at 3 decades of pop music on Yorkshire Television.
Hello, a very warm welcome to YTV 30. Tonight we're celebrating 3 decades of pop music here on Yorkshire Television. Coming up, we chart the rise and fall of light entertainer and singer Lovelace Watkins. Our salute to Sheffield, the pop city. And the first telly appearances of Oasis and Take That, all courtesy of YTV. But first, 2 of Yorkshire's favourite musical sons who've been responsible for some of the finest and most idiosyncratic pop ever to come from our region. We present for your delectation and enjoyment part of a 1971 calendar interview with Joe Cocker, who returned to his hometown of Sheffield after years on the road, and one of the earliest TV appearances of Jarvis Cocker and the mighty Pulp from YTV's Warehouse series.
Well, how do you regard Sheffield? Do you still regard it as home, or a kind of place to escape from all the pressures you're exposed to, or what?
Not really, no. I don't believe you can escape anywhere.
Well, why come back?
Well, I've been on a tuition with my parents for over 9 months, you know. And that's a long time for me to be on a tuition. Well, you know, like when you think about music, the big attraction always been to me has been black music, you know, because that's where the real soul come from, you know, the sort of guts that you got. But then take somewhere like, you know, Sheffield or around here, you know, it was just like there was no, I could never think of anything to put into the music out of here, but there must be, I'm sure. You know, I mean, I'm talking about that, the old type stuff, you know, Ilkley Moore Bar Tat and all that, you know. Could never see how you could put that into modern rock and roll.
But can rock and roll say anything, for instance, about life in Sheffield, about life as a gas fitter or a steel worker? Can it do that?
Can you put that into the music? That's what I'm wondering, you know.
What do you think?
I'm sure, you know, you just absorb all these things wherever you are.
Well, it happened years ago when you lived on Stony Road. Listen to your sister when she came home from school. She was 2 years older and she had boys in her room. I listened outside, I heard her. All right. Well, that was all right for a while. Soon I wanted more. I want to see as well as you. So I hid inside her wardrobe, and she came home round 4. And she was with some kid called David from the garage up the road. I was outside, I heard you. All right. Oh, I want to take you home. I want to give you children. You might be my girlfriend. Yeah.
That was Pulp with one of their very first hits called Babies. Now, there is a famous song that says, life is a cabaret, and that was certainly the case for the late Lovelace Watkins. He was quite a dandy, he was a natty dresser, and he was famous for his very stirring cabaret performances. He appeared at all the top venues like Talk of the Town and, of course, our very own Batley Variety Club. And while he was there, YTV decided to snap him up for a one-off showcase special, but after that, things were not quite the same for Lovelace, as Georgie Spanswick tells you when she takes up the Lovelace Watkins story.
1, 2, 1, 2. Is this on? Is it? Lovely. Picture the scene. It's the early 70s. Suit lapels are as wide as you like. Entertainers of every ilk are making big money on the chicken in a basket circuit in the clubs throughout the north. The time was right for the introduction of a singer whose very presence could light up the stage. This is the story of that man, Ladies and gentlemen, Lovelace Watkins.
Yesterday morning, they let me know you were gone. Susan, the plans they made, put it into you, girl. I got this morning, and I wrote down this song. I just can't remember who to send it to, girl. Oh, I seen fire, I seen rain. I seen lonely days that I thought that would never end.
Lovelace Watkins was a bona fide pop phenomenon. These days, youngsters may fret over Take That, All Saints and the Spice Girls, but it was a more mature crowd who were touched by the Lovelace magic. Soon after arriving from America, Lovelace was wowing audiences the length and breadth of Britain. But it was YTV who beat off a host of record companies and signed him up.
He's 6'3", tremendous charm, a former boxer athlete, very sort of virile, for want of a better term. You would always be wise if you were going into his dressing room to knock at the door first, because he was quite well known for getting up to all sorts of other activities outside of singing. But a very charming man.
Soon after came his own TV show, a one-off special called Let There Be Love, when Lovelace's many talents were showcased for the viewing millions. He was best known for belting out crowd-pleasing chart hits. Even if he did dance like your dad at a disco.
Someone waiting.
His heart and soul into every song. Every song counted, you know, nothing wasted.
He had enormous range.
Could I leave you?
He could be tender.
And it's all mixed up into another kind of love. The love a parent has for a child, especially a father for his daughter.
And a philosopher.
We're going to try to tell you about love tonight. Now, don't laugh. We probably won't get very far because it's bigger than all of us, eh? You agree with that? We're going to use songs to try to tell you about love. Now,
He was accompanied by a very, very beautiful Swedish woman who spoke English quite well, but with a super Swedish accent. But it was very intriguing as to what the exact relationship was, other than the fact she was always by his side. But then it turned out that, in fact, Lovelace had a wife and I think 5 or 6 children that he'd left over in America, and that emerged in due course.
But as we know, even the brightest stars burn out in the end.
They lost the trust of the people. The sincerity was blown sky high, the credibility, and people didn't believe in him anymore. So when they just don't pay money and buy tickets and come out to see him.
Sadly, Lovelace died a few years ago, but a fitting epitaph remains in the sleeve notes of this, one of the few albums that he made during his lifetime. From James Green of the London Evening News, I could forgive him his voice, talent, personality and showmanship, but must admit to a moment of jealousy when he plays his own jazz guitar accompaniment to Moon River. It's almost unfair that he should be a musician too. And who could disagree?
Now for our weekly dip into the news archives and a look at the wonderful and weird stories we've covered over the years. Yes, brace yourself, it's time for Calendar Unearthed.
A lot of people have tried to give up cigarette smoking. Instead, they've tried cigars or pipe smoking. But Geoffrey Everson, whose parents live at Thedlethorpe, has found his very own way of beating the tobacco bug. Well, at first glance, he looks like any other pipe smoker. But his tea break is slightly different, because when Geoffrey brews up, it's not only one for the pot, but it's also one for his pipe as well, because Geoffrey actually smokes tea bags. And this is how he fills up his pipe. Well, Geoffrey, what on earth made you start smoking tea bags?
Well, when I was working on the railway in Inverness 12 to 14 months ago, I took the pipe to work one evening, and I've tried tobacco once or twice, but never liked it. And I picked up an old wagon label and rolled that up and put it in, and the inspector on duty said what a hell of a stink it was, and he told me that I'd be as well off smoking tea. So the next day I went and bought a box of tea bags, and I rolled the whole tea bag up and put it in and tore off the top. And since then I've tried various brands, but I find that to start with you must have the ones with perforations.
Just how many tea bags do you smoke?
Well, I get through 8 to 10 tea bags a day.
After the break, much more music, but I'll leave you for the moment with Mike McGear, Paul McCartney's brother, but I'm sure you knew that, and his single Automobile, video courtesy of those good people at Calendar. See you in a couple of minutes.
Of a Chevrolet, was she ever white? She was looking for action and I was relaxing, for God's sake, smile. I was into my baby dream. She was out of it into a scream. She was looking for stars when the road left her far, going far and too far.
Welcome back. Now, this might surprise you, but over the years we've had just about every band you care to mention on YTV. And here's just a few famous faces who we've captured when they were still in their prime.
Well, very shortly, the legendary hospitality of this village is about to be put to its sternest test for over 1,300 years. The reason is to be found here, in the grounds of Tuphome Manor, a derelict 200-year-old mansion 2 miles from the village. For this is the site of a giant folk festival, hailed by the experts as one of the most spectacular ever to be held in Britain.
How do you feel going out before an audience, a huge audience like this, at this kind of concert?
How many people are there here today?
Well, it might be 25, 30,000.
That's incredible. The most I ever played to is 19,000, but as far as I'm concerned, once you get more than 300 people, you can't really, I mean, you can be overwhelmed by the sheer weight of numbers of the crowd and frightened, you know, and be made nervous, but you can lose your composure and stuff, but you can't really communicate with more than, say, 300 at the most.
And yet it's said that you're sick on stage, you spit at the audience and so on. I mean, how can this be a good example to children?
Well, people are sick everywhere. People are sick and fed up of this country, telling them what to do.
Being together on tour, does it pressures on the group? Does it cause perhaps
No,
a little
we
bit
love
of
each
friction?
other.
Look,
Yeah,
you almost
I mean,
go to
look
bed
at
together.
This is closeness. This is. I mean, this is an economy tour too. We're saving on hotel rooms.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, the entire road crew, 14 road crew, they're in the other room.
They're in the shower, aren't they?
Yeah.
Now then, I know exactly how it feels to be starring in a Fred Astaire film. In fact, this isn't a film, this isn't a gathering for the University May Ball. It's a very special gathering of a group of very special young people. They call themselves the Young Romantics, or the New Romantics, or at least that's the title that's given to them. But take one look at the costumes they're wearing, and I think you might agree that that's the understatement of the year.
Take my tears and that's not really all. Tainted love, tainted love.
The thing about the sort of whole sort of scene, we call it a scene, is that it's a scene that can't really be sort of have a label sort of put on it, like New Romantics or the other things that the papers called it, peacock punks, futurists, the cult with no name, things like that. I think it's a thing that you can't really put a tag on at all.
Suzanne, what's it been like this week then, playing in Sheffield?
It's been wonderful. It's been really, really nice.
What about getting over to the British public then?
Well, we're not doing it. It's not working at the moment, but music's dead in Britain at the moment. It's rubbish, isn't it?
Well, that's one view anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I'd show you a good tour around the premises, and this is where we keep the gold records, ex-members.
So what...
I use it as a fridge, yeah. I've got 10 fish fingers in the back there. Yeah, I mean, you can get a good saxophone sound.
The acoustics are good, aren't they?
Yeah, they're all right for, you know, Man in the Iron Mask, sort of Prisoner of Zenda. So, but yeah, you can get a saxophone. It sounds like 17 saxophones inside there.
Yeah, because it surprises me actually that a group of your stature should continue to be based in Sheffield, and this is an old probation and aftercare building.
Why we should stay in Sheffield? Well, it's a fantastic place to live, you know.
Me and the farmer get on fine through stormy weather and bars of wine. If I pull my weight, he'll treat me well, but if I'm late, he'll get me how. The nation for the nation now. Wheels of industry, pressed by the wheels of industry, pressed by the wheels of industry, pressed by the wheels. Pressed by the wheels of industry, pressed by the wheels of industry, pressed by the wheels of industry. Work now, call me.
Wonderful, and quite a few of the bands you saw there were from our region, and the city of Sheffield in particular has been producing great bands for many years. With me now are two men who've played a big part in that city's musical success story. Martin Ware of Heaven 17 and Tim Strickland, who is creative director of the National Centre for Popular Music, which is being established in Sheffield later in the year. Right. Okay, fellas, why Sheffield?
Sheffield has always been regarded itself as a bit of an outsider's place, you know, I think, where you can actually experiment. And I think, to a certain extent, Bristol's got that kind of attitude now with the trip-hop scene and what have you. But Sheffield in the 80s definitely was a very innovative place. I mean, well, I was in the Humour League when it started, and I think we were kind of groundbreaking at the time. Nobody else was doing what we were doing, and all the electronic bands came from that, really. Apart from Kraftwerk, of course.
Right, so now let's move on to the Centre for Popular Music. Is it because of Sheffield's distinguished musical past that the centre is going to be established? Are you sort of building on that?
There's no doubt that helps, yeah. But the main stimulus for making that happen was when Martin and the League and ABC and Def Leppard were working in the States. You know, it's prompted the City Council at the time to think, how can we encourage some of these people to put something back into the city?
So are Sheffield people? Are you telling me that Sheffield people are naturally musical? That they have a feel for that? That it's in them?
It's an interesting thing. I've thought about this quite a lot over the years, and I think, I know for a start, my dad and a lot of his mates at work, I mean, they used to lead pretty grim existences, frankly. They used to work for 8 hours a day, you know, grinding cutlery or whatever. But my dad, I remember, he used to do poetry, and that was quite a big cultural thing for Sheffield. There's always been a kind of a need to express beyond the sort of industrial side of the society, if you know what I mean.
Now you are actually a Sheffielder.
Yes.
You are
Oh,
actually
yes.
born
and
bred in the city, right? So I mean, we're talking about 30 years of YTV. I mean, so you've grown up with Yorkshire television.
I have, actually. I was just bumped into Austin Mitchell, who used to watch when I was a lad. And he's good self, actually. In the anorak, I noticed that.
Yeah, I've still got that anorak, yeah. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
And bands don't actually get much bigger than Oasis and Take That. Gary Barlow, Robbie Williams and Mark Owen may be household names now, but back in 1991, they were captured by Calendar, gyrating in a warehouse just down the road from our studios in Leeds. As for Oasis, well, YTV actually offered them one of their first television roles in a programme that we were doing called Something for the Weekend. That's it for now, I'm afraid. Next week we feature Austin Mitchell falling out of an aeroplane and Shakin' Stevens having a wrestling match with Richard Madeley on Calendar Goes Pop. From me, good night.
And the next programme in our YTV 30 series is on Thursday evening at 10:40.
Celebrating 30 years of quality television, Alan Hardwick delves into the archives.
Hello, a very warm welcome to YTV 30, where we'll be taking a rather offbeat look at 3 decades of Yorkshire's premier news programme, Calendar. Coming up on tonight's show, is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's man of action, Austin Mitchell. Stirred by shaky Richard Madeley's rock and roll past. And when the concrete boot comes in, the Geordie lips Sid Waddell recalls his time as a Calendar reporter. He was one of Calendar's pioneering presenters. He became known as a man who'd go virtually anywhere for a story, and he was prepared to enter into the spirit of any activity, no matter how ludicrous that might have been. Before we meet him, here's just a few of his adventures.
You know, the one big thing about working in television is the chance for wish fulfillment. Anything you want to do, you can do it on television, provided Mrs. Whitehouse wouldn't mind too much. And now I'm going to achieve a long-standing ambition, because I've always wanted to drop from a parachute, you know, coming down, thinking noble thoughts as you come smoothly and gently to the ground. Now I'm going to realise it, because I've been challenged by a member of the Leeds and Bradford Freefall Parachute Club to do a parachute jump, which is just what I'm going to do now. Elbows well in. Go! Rubbish. Now this is the first cafe. It's Betty's. It's just outside Nottingham. It's obviously got clean, efficient toilet arrangements for all the lorry drivers. And over here is the cafe itself. I'll tell you what it says. It says in the guide, you can watch your meal being cooked by the cheery woman owner at this bungalow cafe. Yeah. With a shop and filling station attached. We enjoyed well-cooked liver, onions, and fresh mashed potato and peas from an adequate menu. Quick, efficient service and clean surroundings, although redecoration is overdue here. Cakes and sweets also sold. Well, that sounds smashing, doesn't it? Let's go in and find out what it's like. Well, are you open?
No, well, I mean, we've been making sandwiches like for people that's been used to coming, they can't get used to us being shut, you see.
You closed, are you?
We closed, yes, but we'll make you a sandwich.
Get the head back, come on. OK, that's better. Now hold that position for a minute. I can't. Okay, that's the position. That's what you'll be like when you leave the aircraft.
What? Don't check. And thank God it's open now. Now I've got to find the toggles. Got hold of the toggles, look round behind me for the cross I'm supposed to be dropping on. Here we go. Feet together, ready for the impact. Curl up. Whoa! I'm really having back. Oh! Ow. That was a hell of a...
Yes, this is Yorkshire. And there really are some magnificent sights in Yorkshire. One of them is Miss Mandy Silver, who's now training secretly at a Leeds nightclub for an attempt next week on the world tassel tossing record. This is a very arduous training session. She has to keep abreast of every development in the field of tassel tossing. And believe me, there's some pretty strenuous training going on at this Leeds nightclub for the attempt next week. Miss Silver, toss some tassels for us, please. I used to be very sprightly when I was young. I just mistimed the whole sideways roll. As a result of my own stupidity, I've now got 4 weeks in bed, which means I'm being henpecked like crazy by my wife. And it also means that when these crushed vertebrae heal, I should be half an inch shorter, which means that Richard White is going to start bullying me around the studio. But still, let's not get into bed about it. I'll just say good night. See you sometime later on. Cheerio.
Now, I'm sure that it's a lot safer to be an MP, but Austin, is it really as much fun as those early days on Calendar?
No, nothing like as much fun. I mean, that was the best bit of my life. I remember Barry Cockhoff came over from Granada, and Barry was very sophisticated, you know, very, very sophisticated. And he told us all the tricks. I remember one of the first films I went on, he actually persuaded Nicholas Horton Fawkes, who was a direct descendant of Guy Fawkes, to climb to the top of a huge bonfire, and then Barry just threw a match on the bonfire. And of course, we had letters of indignant letters of protest from parents all over Yorkshire saying, "What are you teaching the kids to put people on a bonfire?" And poor old Horton Fawkes was there. He put petrol on this. It really roared up. Help!
I mean, absolutely non-PC. But then again, you know, it was a different time.
Well, it wasn't PC at all. I mean. I remember very vividly the night Frank Stagg, who was an IRA hunger striker, died in Wakefield prison. He'd been on hunger strike for a long time, very serious business. And we had on the programme that night, and it was known that Frank Stagg was nearing his end, but it wasn't expected that he'd die actually in the programme. We had on the programme that night some people who were offered to rent themselves out to make your party fun, you know, and they blew hooters and flue streamers and klaxons and custard pies and the whole lot. So the end of the programme was to be them making the calendar fun. So I said, well, there it is, good night. Now we've got Fred and Snupple here, and they're going to make it really fun. And the custard pie flew straight at me, and then a note was thrust at me. Frank Staggs died. So I had to clear away the custard pie and say, and we had on a serious note, Frank Stagg, the hunger striker, has just died in Wakefield prison. Next custard pie hit me. You know, it was that kind of...
I mean, the thing is, I mean, a lot of it was made up as you went along, and that's the beauty of it, isn't it?
I remember television as the best time. It was fun. It looks dreadfully irresponsible now. We'd never got away with it now.
But the viewers loved it. I mean, the viewers did, as you say quite rightly, the ratings built up and up and up and up and up and surpassed the BBC, which they still do. You said with...
Well, I think the transition to Yorkshire television from what had been Granada before, which had covered the whole of the north, gave the county, the whole of Yorkshire and the areas round about it, a programme they could identify with, which was theirs, which was them, which talked to them in their own language, and I think that's what television's about.
I think we still do it today. Austin, thank you very much indeed. Well, I hope we still do it today. Thank you. Alongside Austin on those earliest calendar programmes was a young man who'd go on to become a national institution. For more than 25 years, Richard Whiteley was the programme's avuncular anchor, a rock who could be relied on to stand firm at the most trying times. Of course, Countdown led to even greater fame for Richard, but as a tribute to his time at Calendar, here are just a few memorable moments from Whiteley as well.
Were their facilities adequate? The facilities were amazingly adequate. I've never had more adequate facilities
And
in
you
all my
slept
life.
all right, did you?
I slept very well, yes. I had a room of my own, nice clean sheets, and I was very
How
well
did
looked
you feel
after. And the flat belonged to two charming girls, Kathy and Janet. Very nice girls.
And they were on hand to look after you?
They were on hand. And what I do want to do now is introduce you to this gentleman here, Mr. Lloyd Walford.
And I don't want no trouble out of him.
Well, he comes from Bradford in Yorkshire, and he is a contender for the British Light Heavyweight Championship. I'd like you to say how to do to him.
Are you a boxer?
Yeah.
What do you box? Oranges? Bananas? Cigars?
I boxed all the hard
Yeah,
boys
well,
around.
let me see how good you are. Throw a blow or two.
Well, you know, funny, I was going to say the same thing to you. I was thinking, you know, that I was one of the prettiest fighters around. But, you know,
think you're one of the
I
prettiest,
thought
man.
I
This
were,
place is
but
not
see,
big
you
enough
know-
for two pretty fighters. And one of us is going to leave. One of us will leave.
Well, I don't know.
Well, I'll see you up there. Is this interview over?
Yeah,
No,
he's come out of an 8-round fight. He's got not got a bruise on his face, has he?
No, he's all right.
Yeah.
Is this interview over? I'm going to take him back out in the side for a little talk.
I see. Why don't you do it? Well, the interview isn't over, actually. We're still rolling the camera. Why don't you just have a go with him now, though? We'll still watch.
No, we don't want to go now. We don't make you pay us if we really go.
Definitely,
I
yeah,
want to give him a little talk back here, a little private
sure.
talk.
Okay, well...
He talks too much. I don't like fighters who talk too much.
Well, I agree. Hello, and a very warm welcome to Calendar Countdown. This is a brand new quiz game that we literally all can play, you at home as well. Now, it's so easy, it's as easy as ABC, as simple as 1, 2, 3. I'm speaking to you live. Well, I don't know if you probably saw that, and it says it all. It says it all.
It's about this time that we normally show you a pop video lovingly handcrafted by the Calendar team in years gone by. However, tonight we're turning to the world of fashion for an equally affecting archive moment. From 1975, this was what Calendar predicted the well-dressed man about town would be wearing. See you in a couple of minutes. welcome back. Now, these days, they're Britain's favourite TV couple, a bit more animated than this, obviously. They bless our mornings with a confection of chat and celebrity guests. But what you possibly didn't know is that Richard here was once a young reporter on Calendar. So Georgie Spanswick tracked him down on the set of This Morning for a chat about the good old days.
Now, Calendar has been the launch pad for many a successful career over the years. Apart from our very own Richard Whiteley, there's former Tory Minister Jonathan Aitken, who first wielded his sword of truth as a presenter on YTV's top news programme. And Sid Waddell, best known as the voice of TV's Darts. He was once hotly pursued by a herd of pigs whilst reporting for Calendar. But few have matched the stellar career of the man I've come to London to meet. Former Calendar reporter and now household name and co-host of This Morning, Richard Madeley. For a moment, he looks free. Mr. Madeley.
Nice to see you.
How
You
very...
all right?
Oh, lovely.
It's all right,
Oh,
pleasure.
marvellous. Nice kiss as well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's all right, pleasure.
Oh, it's very comfy. Very comfy indeed. Now, would you say that being at Yorkshire Television was the best fun that you've had?
Most of my work at Yorkshire was on, the news programme was on Calendar. It was a damn good news programme, and it still is, but it was a very, very good news programme. It had very good news editors, you know, and good producers. And it was, I think it was, in terms of its standards and the standards it set itself, and I can only speak for the time that I was there, everybody working on it, I think, expected them to be as good as News at 10, you know, and as professional and as tight. It's a damn good show.
Do you feel that
Very
was good grounding?
Excellent, yeah, really good. Many of the decisions and judgments that I certainly make, and Judy has her own background to make them from, but the ones that I make on this show every day, we have about 45 minutes where we go through the material just before we transmit it live, where you have to make some very, very fast decisions, because it's not always all there or all right. You know, you have to tweak it just before you go on it. And a lot of it is based on a straightforward journalistic discipline, like, no, that's the wrong picture in the wrong order, you need to start with this, that's the story, you know, that's the angle.
So did you start out to be Mr. Trendy, Mr. Pop?
You're talking Calendar Goes Pop, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
I'm sorry, and that incident with Shaking Stevens?
All right, okay.
Mr. Madeley?
It's officially Calendar Goes Pop, which went out at, I think, 5 o'clock. We did 3 episodes. Thank God we didn't do any more. I presented it with lots of hairspray. And,
lovely.
Yes, lovely, yeah. And I think what took it off the air was, apart from that, I was a useless pop presenter. Couldn't do it. I just wasn't, I was far less cool then, actually, hopeless. Was that, not that I'm cool now, but I was even less cool then, was that we had Shakin' Stevens on. And I don't know what Shaky had been doing that day. I don't know what he'd been up to. But he came on with a very strange look on his face. What I said to him was, for the life of me, I don't know why this got to him, but I said, thing is, you know, your roots, like your music, it's very much in the 50s, isn't it? 50s and early 60s. And he said, oh no, I'm an 80s actor, I am. And I said, because he's Welsh, you know, that was a Welsh accent.
Very good Welsh accent.
Thank you. And I said, yeah, obviously it's 1983. What I mean is, the songs you do are very of the 50s, you know, kind of rock and roll as it was, you know, Elvis stuff. He said, no, I'm a fresh actor, right? He said, I do hate this stuff. I said, well, I know that. What I'm saying is that the way that you...
Digging a hole.
He was told, no, I was right, he was wrong. And I said, yes, of course it's 1983, but... And I turned to the audience, I think, and said, but he does 50s stuff, doesn't he? And they all went, yes. I said, you do 50... And he just went for me.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Oh,
right. Well, that was...
Feel better for that?
That was a wonderful Christmas present. Thank you very much indeed, Shaky. Ruined the hairstyle. Let's catch up with Shaky's latest
Merry
single.
Christmas, everybody!
Do you want to hear your single?
Do I?
You want to hear your single?
Yes.
Right, let's catch up with his latest single. It's from an album called Marie. It's called Marie. Okay. Marie! And it's Shooting Gallery.
So any hairy moments then?
Oh, God, I don't know if I can tell this.
Oh, I think you have to.
Well,
You've started, so you must finish.
It was my very, very first broadcast for Yorkshire Television. I've been, because I was experienced a little bit in television from Border, I only shadowed for a couple of days. That means just following around to see where the toilets are. Basically. And then I went out to do a story about the Penistone Railway Line. Right?
Oh, no.
Now, Penistone to Sheffield, I don't know. And I went out and I interviewed people. It was under threat. It was going to be... Is it still going, do you know?
Oh,
you don't know.
Do you know? I don't know.
All right, okay. Well, it was under threat then. And I did the whole report and interviewed people, and then I recorded my voiceover, you know, the bits of script that go with the pictures. And then I came back in and they said, we want you to do it live as well, introduce it to the viewers a bit. So introduce it yourself and link into your own tape and do a little interview afterwards. And let's just say that I didn't call it Penistone. Right? Let's just say that the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 letters came out in an alternative pronunciation
I think I get your meaning.
throughout the broadcast piece.
Oh, no.
And I don't know, I didn't have an earpiece in, I don't think, or if I did, it wasn't working, and I wasn't corrected. And for 6 months after that, every time I went into the YTV bar, and that's another great thing about Yorkshire Television, they've got a bar. And you can go from the studio to the bar, it's great. That was my nickname. I was Peniston
Richard.
by another pronunciation. It was very funny.
Finally on
It
the
was
name.
very, very funny, yeah.
So there you have it, Richard Madeley, a man who obviously hasn't lost touch with his humble roots, an entertainer, a raconteur and a true gent. I even got an autograph for my mum.
You know, if young Richard had been around in 1974, he may have been the lucky reporter chosen to tackle this insane item from the calendar archives. It's a terrifying tale of a cursed cooking pot in Halton near Grimsby. So prepare yourself, gentle viewers, for Calendar Unearthed.
When John Morton bought the manor house at East Halton, he got more than he bargained for. For under the house, in the cellar, is an iron pot, and legend says that anyone who touches the pot will soon die a violent death. Villagers tell of 3 people who have died after touching the pot, and builders renovating the house take the story so seriously that they refuse to move or touch the pot.
So the only answer they decided was to box the pot in and leave it undisturbed where it stood for so many years. Well, Thornton Abbey is only 2 miles from the farm, and one story says that at the abbey a dwarf was burnt at the stake. His ashes were carried to the farm in the pot through an underground passage and left there. So whatever it is, and wherever it came from, the mystery pot is posing plenty of problems today.
Oh, a few years ago, about 40 years ago, a chap was with his horse and cart, apparently, and I don't know, the pot got moved out of the house and into the pond, and a few days after the young son or brother, whatever, of the family, he was killed. And so apparently the pot came back into the house, and things like this has happened over the period of years before.
Is that why you decided to keep it in the cellar still?
Well, I thought I'd leave it where it was, and that'll be it. Probably have no more trouble.
So what have you done exactly to it?
Well, nothing. We've just moved it back into the corner, and we've plated it in, and we think if we leave it there, that, you know, that should be okay.
Did you ever think of throwing it out of the house at all?
No, I never thought of that.
Why not?
Well, 2 children of my own, and advice taken from the elder generation in the village, and they said leave it where it is, you see, so we'll leave it there for a while.
Now that's what I call a horror story. Now, my final guests are people who've accomplished the near impossible in their time. They've made a fairly dreary story come alive with a bit of wit and humour, more than a bit, in fact. Masters of what's become known as the "and finally," that funny little story at the end of any news programme. Firstly, a television veteran, a man with too many talents to list, former calendar reporter, now best known as the voice of darts, Mr. Sid Waddell. And with him, a man who still covers the weird and wonderful stories out there in YTV land for Calendar, Chris Giddy. The thing is, you and Chris have developed this skill, and it is a real art of actually injecting humour into news programmes. We all know news is serious, but you can't have an unleavened mix of just news, can you?
That's right. I mean, they did tell us at one stage, Donald Baverstock was down the bus, said, the news is too boring. I don't want fires, boy. I don't want everything from the police station. So he said, get a bit in, and they sent us a film. I was editor that day, of the Archbishop of York going around the Roundtrees factory tasting Smarties. And we played My Sweet Lord by the Beatles over it, and we got bollock rotten.
The thing is, I mean, sometimes, and I know this for a fact, there's a story comes in that somebody in the news, on the news desk thinks might just make a little bit of a funny, but doesn't know how. And then they go, oh, yeah, Chris. Or in your case, you know, because it was the same with you. Yeah, let's turn this into something that we can actually use.
I think the funniest thing with me was when they sent me to Adel, one of the first things I'd ever done in a suit and all that. And I tried to do like Richard Whiteley would do, did posh and proper. And it was with a guy with a concrete boat. Well, when you're a Geordie, it's very hard to say concrete boat. So I stood on this boat in Adel made of concrete. Why make a boat with a concrete